With over 20 million copies sold, Stardew Valley needs no introduction. The game has not only cemented itself in history as one of the most popular farm simulators ever, but with all the success coming from a single person, Eric Barone, fulfilling the roles of visual designer, music composer, coder, and more, the phenomenon of Stardew Valley is itself one in a million. In this video, I want to focus on some things that Eric has said about his approach while creating Stardew Valley, see how the game design of Stardew Valley reflects that approach, and then finish things off with some musings about Eric's upcoming game, Haunted Chocolatier. So with all that being said, let's start things off with a hello, my name is JeuelyFish, and let's talk about the philosophy of joy in Stardew Valley. Eric Barone has done a handful of interviews where he shares his motivation and framework for creating Stardew Valley. The two interviews I'm going to focus on here are the segments from King 5 Local News and Vox Media's Vulture. What stood out to me in these interviews is his reoccurring emphasis on trying to make a game where every moment is filled with joy. Now, certainly nearly every developer and team aims at making their game fun, or at least they should be, and joy and fun are certainly close synonyms. But for my own 300 plus hours of Stardew Valley and now decades worth of video game experience, I can tell you that the philosophy of joy as a constant in games is not something that's universal. Even in games that I'm personally a fan of, there are intentional design decisions where moments that are grueling and less fun can pay dividends and rewards, and thusly have more fun later down the line if you're diligent and focused during those more grueling moments. Another example are games that can also by design have huge costs to end game screens, like roguelikes. Stardew, on the other hand, has no fail screens or death screens. But to prevent us from getting any more abstract, let's jump into some concrete examples in Stardew Valley and talk about how they display a game design that ensures constant and continual joy. As you start a new game with Stardew Valley, you're given some basic farming tools and some parsnip seeds. These are enough to give you a basic sense of the main mechanics of the game that you'll be doing: chopping trees, breaking rocks, tilling soil, watering plants, etc. You're also given a quest to introduce yourself to the villagers of the community in Pelican Town. From there, you're gradually introduced with more complexities like farm buildings and combat. Focusing here though on the first few moments of gameplay, you're right off the bat given a decision tree. Either spend time cultivating your farm, or say hi to the villagers, or do a little of each. Decision trees in this game are everywhere, and the further you play, the more are introduced to you. While there are timers in the game, the world is infinitely patient, which means you can achieve both social and economic goals eventually with enough time. Focusing on one and then the other, or doing a little bit of each splitting your efforts, are all valid strategies and approaches to the game. From this experiential foundation of Stardew, I'm going to draw 3 points about the game design in Stardew Valley. The first is that the player themselves set urgency and thusly difficulty. While there are optimizations and strategies if you're trying to maximize efficiency and minimize space or time, the player can always play at a leisurely pace as well. This opens the game up for someone to play at a casual tempo, and also opens the game up for someone to be trying to map out all the shortest distances, have multiple spreadsheets and calculators, calendars and wikis open, pausing the game to read up on debates about which choices are better, suddenly stumbling into a whole slew of conspiracy theories and fan art, and yeah, it can get kind of weird and a little intense out there, which is pretty cool. Moving on to the second point that I'm drawing here though is this. The only permanent losses in Stardew Valley are opportunity costs. If you're unfamiliar with the concept of an opportunity cost, the general gist of it is that when you're given a choice between doing A or B, the opportunity cost of doing A and getting its result is that you lost the opportunity to do B and have gotten its result, and vice versa. Stardew, like many other RPGs, is chock full of opportunity costs. Whether you go down the community center route or the JoJo route, picking fruit caves or mushroom caves, picking a spouse, etc., you're constantly paying opportunity costs. To reiterate the point that I'm making here, it's these opportunity costs that are the only permanent losses a player will ever experience in the game. Even death or parenthood are not permanent in Stardew Valley. Lastly, the third point I'm drawing here is that the rewards in Stardew, achieved now or later, are always qualitatively the same. That is to say, it doesn't matter if you've optimized a strategy for some task or if you've taken your time to achieve it, the rewards for that quest or task are always the same. A good example of this is what some consider to be the main quest of Stardew Valley and its potential reward. Once you've started and finished your first 2 in-game years, your character and farm will be assessed and scored on various metrics. If the player achieves a high enough score, they'll be rewarded with a Statue of Perfection. Whether or not you achieve this at the end of your second year or fail to do so and then reevaluate yourself later, maybe years down the line, you'll still get the same Statue of Perfection reward. The statue is no less or better because of you having achieved it one way or the other. This is what I mean when I say that all rewards in Stardew, regardless of approach, are all qualitatively the same. Through these 3 points, I see 3 concrete principles which I take to be based in Eric's philosophy of joy in game design. Now, as some of you all might know, Eric is busy developing his second game, currently titled Haunted Chocolatier, and to date has had a handful of updates via text posts and video clips on his game blog site. Even with these few blog posts, I argue we see echoes of this philosophy of joy already in the game. For example, when talking about the inspiration and setting for their new game, Why Chocolate and Why Haunted Castle, Eric responds that he simply thinks that a lot of people like chocolate, and that chocolate represents that which is delightful, and he intends the game to be positive, uplifting, and life-affirming. Additionally, as another small example, when talking about the combat in Haunted Chocolatier, Eric mentions that the new shield and stun mechanic rewards more cautious players, but that players don't have to play this way and could, if they wanted, be more aggressive and defeat enemies quickly. And we should be expecting other items to complement different play styles. Now, these blog posts alone aren't strong enough evidence for me to say conclusively that we should be expecting the same exact principles previously talked about in Stardew to be in Haunted Chocolatier. But I do think that it shows that there is some underlying philosophy and approach to game design between the two. To sum up my musings here, if Eric's original aim in Stardew was to make a game where every moment is filled with joy, and if he achieved that through the 3 points and principles I've outlined previously, then it seems reasonable to assume we would see something akin to them in Haunted Chocolatier as well. Which for me is very exciting. Stardew has provided a lot of joy for me and the people I played the game with, so as long as Eric aims to create the same effect, simply with a different palette or canvas, then I'm all aboard. And that's all my thoughts on the topic. How about you? If you managed to get this far in the video, I encourage you to share your thoughts at Stardew Valley and any predictions you might have about Haunted Chocolatier in the comment section below. Either way, thanks for watching and listening to me, and I'll catch you next time.